Hello, good morning. My name is Agata Wąsowska-Pawlik, and I would like to welcome you to the third day of the Sixth Heritage Forum of Central Europe. I hope that you are all well and that you will still be with us during this third stage of our conference. I would like to remind you that apart from several keynote speeches and panel discussion, we also have a lot of individual presentations in the form of parallel sessions. Today, I will have a great pleasure to pass the micro to my colleague, Dr. Michał Wiśniewski, who will chair the discussion on the occasion of 30th anniversary of Visegrad cooperation. I would like to get back to my introductory speech when I spoke about our Visegrad cooperation, and the Sixth Heritage Forum is the result of this cooperation. We have long-lasting friends and partners in Czechia, Slovakia, and Hungary, and together with them we are working since nearly 14 years to get to know each other better and to learn together concerning the heritage management of UNESCO heritage sites, and to initiate discussion and general reflection on the issues of cultural heritage. So that is why we decided to prepare a report on this on that cooperation, and we decided to devote this morning discussion to this very topic. I will not be longer. I will pass the micro to Dr. Michał Wiśniewski, who will introduce the rest of the speakers, as we will have the connection with Bratislava, Prague, and Budapest, and Polish speakers, Professor Jacek Purchla included, is here with us today. So I wish you a fruitful time in front of the screens, and see and hear you soon. Michał, the micro is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning. My name is Michał Wiśniewski. I represent the International Cultural Center, and this morning I have this privilege to moderate the session dedicated to the Visegrad cooperation in the field of cultural heritage promotion and protection. 2021, it's a year of the 30th anniversary of the establishment of the Visegrad Group. Because of this very important day, here at the ICC, we decided to prepare a report dedicated to the question of how cultural heritage was used for the purpose of strengthening, developing the cooperation between the four countries. I should start with a few historical dates. It was the 15th February 1991. On that day, President Lech Wałęsa, President Václav Havel, and the Prime Minister Józef Antall met in Visegrad for the very first time in the format that in the future was transformed into a Visegrad Group. The second meeting was organized here in Krakow on the 6th of October 1991. On that day, I should remind that it was already obvious that the Soviet Union will be closed, will be ended in the few coming months, and the three countries at that time, and after 1 year, four countries decided to build the even stronger platform of collaboration and cooperation. The Visegrad Group since 1991 was cooperating in the field of security, very strongly on the level of politics, in the field of developing various projects dedicated to infrastructure, education, and last but not least, however, I maybe should start with this very one level of collaboration. These four countries, namely Czechia, Hungary, Slovakia and Poland, were collaborating in the field of culture and especially in the field of cultural heritage. Agata Wąsowska-Pawlik just mentioned that it was 2006 when the ministers of culture of the Visegrad countries met in Krakow and they decided to establish a special V4 Cultural Heritage Experts Working Group. And since 2006, ICC in 2006, ICC was chosen to be a moderator, a leader of this very format. The first meeting of the partners of the group took place 14 years ago. It was 2007, June, and 14 years ago we started the cooperation, which was very fruitful, was and yes, and still is very fruitful, I have to say. The Sixth Heritage Forum of Central Europe somehow is a result of this cooperation. The working group is operating on two levels. It was 2009 when for the very first time together in the format of the Visegrad Cooperation we organized the V4 Heritage Academy named Management of UNESCO World Heritage Cultural Site in Visegrad countries. Since 2009, every year before pandemics, we've been inviting about 20 mainly young heritage professionals from all of the region, also from non-Visegrad countries, to discuss the issue of management of the World Heritage Sites in our region. Every year we've been traveling to a different country, to a different place. Last time it was 2019 when we visited Český Krumlov. In 2010, the ICC organized the conference entitled Protecting and Safeguarding of the Cultural Heritage in Visegrad Countries. And it was the very first meeting that initiated in the future the format of the heritage forums of Central Europe. Right now we are meeting because of the Sixth Heritage Forum of Central Europe. Before we've been discussing in this format such topics as the limits of heritage, heritage and the city, heritage and society, heritage and environment, and this year we are discussing heritage and development. This is the end of my introduction to the discussion that I would like to, that I will be moderating and will be discussing together with four experts, four pillars of this very collaboration since the very beginning, being with us. I will use the alphabetical order of the Visegrad states to present the four speakers, panelists of today. At first, I would like to invite and introduce Dr. Jiří Vajčner. He represents the Ministry of Culture of Czechia. Dr. Vajčner studied at the business school in Prague and at the Charles University and the Czech Technical University in Prague. He obtained his PhD there in 2007. Since 1994, he has been working in the Ministry of Culture, now at the position of Director of the National Heritage Department. He's a lecturer of the Charles University in Prague on the Institute for Public Administration and member of consultation group of Research Center for Industrial Heritage by Czech Technical University in Prague. He's also the blood donor, winner of gold medal. Jiří, welcome. Thank you for accepting our invitation and thank you for being with us. Once I welcomed Prague, I would like to go to Budapest And in Budapest, I would like to welcome Dr. Tamás Fejérdy, architect and conservator. He obtained his master's degree in architecture and also his PhD there. Between 1976 and 2013, he worked in the National State Organization for Monument Preservation, mostly in executive position. He's a honorary member of ICOMOS, honorary president of ICOMOS Hungary. Since 1996, he teaches at Budapest University of Technology, Babes Bolyai University in Cluj-Napoca in Romania, as well as at the Keszek campus of University of Pannonia. Since 2009, he works with the related UNESCO chairs. He's a lecturer on the Roman Andras Summer University on monument conservation, honorary associate professor at the Budapest University of Technology, honorary professor of Universitas Pannonica in Veszprém. He's also a former chairperson of the UNESCO's World Heritage Committee 2002-2003 and former member of Europa Nostra award jury and the Europa Nostra Council. Tamás, thank you for being with us. Thank you for accepting our invitation. And I would also like to welcome Dr. Katarina Kosova. She's in Bratislava. Dr. Katarina Kosova, she's an art historian and ethnologist. She graduated at Masaryk University in the Czech Republic. She obtained a doctorate degree in history of art. Katarina Kosova started her career as a specialist in the State Restoration Atelier, works for fine art, mainly polychromy, wooden sculpture and wall painting, where she became director in 1990. She was then appointed Director General of the Slovak Institute of Monuments Preservation in 1998. After a restructuring plan of the institute, she became Director General of the new Monuments Board of the Slovak Republic in 2002. She served this function until 2021. At the European level, Katarina Kosova has been a member of experts groups for skills and crafts in cultural heritage for the Council of Europe. She also plays an active role in the Slovak UNESCO Commission and ICOMOS Committee, among the others. And finally, last but not least, I would like to cordially welcome Professor Jacek Purchla, who is with me in the studio, Professor of Humanities and a full member of the Polish Academy of Arts and Sciences. Since 2015, he has been a president of the Polish National Committee for UNESCO. Between 2016 and 2017, he was the president of the UNESCO World Heritage Committee. He heads the Department of Economic and Social History at the Krakow University of Economics, as well as the Institute of European Heritage at the International Cultural Center, of which he's the founder and was its first director for 27 years. President of the board of Jagiellonian University, Doctor Honoris Causa of the National University of Lviv Polytechnic. His research focuses on urban development, social history, and art history of the 19th and the 20th century and the 20th centuries, as well as on the theory of protection of cultural heritage. He's the author of hundreds of academic publications, including many books. Dear friends, if I may, thank you for accepting our invitation. I'm sure it will be a very fruitful discussion. Last year we decided to prepare the report dedicated to how the cultural heritage was used for strengthening the cooperation between the Visegrad countries. Thank you for being with us during the preparing this very report. And the report is not ready yet. It will be published very soon. But today we decided to organize a discussion dedicated to this cooperation. And I prepared some questions and would like to ask each of you this question, starting with the one dedicated to how the establishment, what the establishment and activities of the V4 group meant for your country during the last 30 years. I think that we should start with Prague. Jiří Vajčner.
Yeah, thank you very much, Frank. And first, I would like to thank for the invitation to take part in so significant discourse as we have these days within Heritage Forum. And I would like to also to congratulate four countries and especially ICC on this fantastic anniversary as 30 years undoubtedly is. I think that it is absolutely unbelievable. Yes, and as a matter of fact, it is an answer for this question because, of course, activities concerning culture, heritage, based on cooperation among the Visegrad countries are from a country headstones in the area of the international cooperation. Czech Republic, I prefer Czech Republic than Czechia because I think that is better. Repetitively pointed out that Visegrad cooperation in culture heritage is composed in the exchange of experts, experience, the creation of platforms for common topics, and the coordination of cooperation with other foreign partners. Projects addresses two diverse areas, including expert cooperation between individual institutions, mutual assistance, and the exchange of experience in addressing the most topics, gender research and educational activities, and culture, heritage, and art. Yeah, this cooperation is very, very widely spread. It works on the field of culture, monument care, museums, exhibitions, libraries, living gardens, so on. It's for us. It is something really, very natural. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And now I would like to pass the voice to Budapest. Tamás, you've been in this cooperation since the very beginning. How is the Hungarian perspective dedicated to what Visegrad was, is? Could you tell us how you observe these 30 years?
Thank you very much. I will support my answers with some presentations, but before starting with that, first of all, I want to thank you.
It is not front of me, it is something near my head.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So, before starting with my answer, I want really to start with a bigger distance. First of all, I want to quote a very specific Portuguese expression, which is the saudade or saudade, which means at the same time people have a sweet and a bitter feeling. So I have this one now. It's very sweet and very nice to see you and meet you, even though only in virtual manners. And really, my deepest thanks and congratulations to organize this 6th edition of this forum. And yes, I really hope that the next time we're going to have the chance to meet in person. Now, go for the answer from the perspective of Budapest. These 30 years of cooperation, not only among the four countries, but generally speaking, on international cooperation, have to be split up in two sections. The first section was quite fruitful, and it was a very largely, developing among different international corporations. And I think in this very context, this is the second one, okay, this is the first one. So in this, thank you very much for technical support. So in this very context, I really have to give a special mention to the V4 cooperation. As was said already in the introduction of Professor Wiśniewski, this is somehow unique and without any other parallel, at which level this V4 cooperation in the field of culture heritage presentation was organized, supported, and not only technically but also financially by the Polish partner and especially by the ICC. So we really have to thank the ICC in Krakow and the Polish government for organizing and maintaining this cooperation in a generous, high level and continuous manner. I don't want to be too long, but I have to really underline that it's not only the this kind of possibility as we have now, taking part in Central European Heritage Culture Heritage Forums dealing with very current and how to say hot topics, but also it was already mentioned this yearly Heritage Academy for those who are dealing with the management of World Heritage properties in our countries. But also I have to mention extraordinary high level and important publication policy followed by ICC, and I do believe that this is in the framework of V4 group, and I of course I remain only in the field of culture, heritage management and preservation. This is somehow gives a continuity and strengthen not only internationally but also in our own country this approach to the management issues, the heritage. And I also have to underline that the ICC organized cooperation in this V4 context was enough brave to touch upon, let's say, delicate issues, difficult thematics. So I think I can not be enough, how to say, good to explain in which level it was also a fertilization of our own thinking on cultural heritage issues and the paradigm shift between among monuments and sites and cultural heritage items. So I think I stop myself here, but with repeating that this cooperation was only or strongly possible because of dedicated work of Polish colleagues, and especially by colleagues at ICC, and really special thanks to all the leaders of this institute and also all the collaborators. It was very nice to enumerate the names of our friends, but I stop myself here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. So many kind words. And now I would like to give the floor to Katarina Kosova from Bratislava, from Slovakia. Slovakia is the only country that has the border with all of the other 3 members of the group. So I guess Visegrad cooperation plays a very unique and special role in your country. But how would you describe these 30 years of cooperation for your country? We can't hear.
There is no voice.
Micro, yes. Good morning, dear colleagues. I am very, very happy to see you again, and thank you really very much for the invitation. And I feel very privileged to be the part of this discussion. first of all, I would like to express also the gratitude for the ambition and for the realization of this report from the IIC, because really it is a hard job, and also during this pandemic era, it is not so easy all to organize. So thank you very much, and also for this conference. When I have to look at the 30 years, for me it is, because I don't want to once again express how it is fruitful, because this is really, and this was really fruitful. It was what us enriched very much on high level. But for me, this Visegrad format is it seems to me so kind of a reconfirmation of our common roots, because when we are looking, then we in Middle Europe were growing up in the same cultural, mutual space. So for me, it is this V4 format, something what is very for us important. Before, after dividing the monarchy, what was our common root? What was our common roots? We then follow our relationships on bilateral levels, and they were very important for us. We have had lots of agreement with Hungarian colleagues, with Polish colleagues, with the Czech colleagues. So there was a lot of common experiences, and even though we have these common experiences also when we were a part of common Soviet blocs. And then it was for me very naturally that this format of V4 was a grow up. It is understandable that the politicians understand this necessity very soon and been professional later on. But when I could mention my one of first experiences in Council of Europe, in spite of all the ambitions that had the Western colleagues from Southern Europe to merge us together after the falling down of Iron Curtain. But it was not so easy, because we both are standing on various positions. And that's why it was for us very good to be there, for example, in Council of Europe, together with the colleagues from Hungary, from Poland, sometimes from Bulgaria, Romania, because we understand better our needs, our requirements, our expectations, our dreams, fulfill our dreams. So I think that for me is Visegrad 4, and I would like to underline it and to say that it is really a kind of reconfirmation of our common history, cultural space that was growing up from Austrian-Hungarian monarchy. And I'm very thankful that all these our relationships, in spite of all shadows there were in the past, could bring such a very fruitful and high intellectual society. So that is my how I see these 30 years as a very naturally process, and at the end, really big chapeau and hood up for the colleagues from IIC, that you are so encouraged, and you really are invest to this our format and our cooperation so much, your energy, your time, and I'm very thankful for all what I could personal, and also my colleagues from Slovakia could earn during the conferences, during these summer schools, academies, and so on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And now I would like to give the floor to President Purchla. 1991 was also the year of the establishment of the ICC. What is your perspective in terms of the Visegrad cooperation?
No. Thank you. My perspective firstly is to say dobre rano, Jure Geld Kiwanok. Dzień dobry. And a very good morning. Isn't it a paradox that English is the official language of V4? I think not. The question raised by Michał, to my naive understanding, is a genuine political question. So let me try to deal with this question, answering it in 3 points. Point number 1 is just a reminder. It was more than 30 years time. So let me please just emphasize that the original purpose for the V4 cooperation was to contribute to the historic project of United Europe. When Józef Antol, Václav Havel, Lech Wałęsa met to initiate the V4 cooperation, Europe was entering a new era of democracy, peace, and unity declared at the Paris Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe, CSCE. It was November 1991. This very meeting, this very conference is still considered as the end of the Cold War, of the division of Europe. And I'm happy to say that during this very conference, the first prime minister of the Polish non-communist government, Tadeusz Mazowiecki, solemnly declared the opening of the International Cultural Center. So the roots are common. But the principal reason for the establishment of the V4 those days, at the very end of the era of Cold War, was, it is not a secret, membership in NATO and the European Union. Czechoslovakia those days, Hungary and Poland were the only post-socialist countries at that time that had made a firm commitment to embrace the values, practices, patterns prevailing in the West and to join NATO and the European Union. So it is my point number 1. Point number 2 is very much in the spirit of the words of Dr. Katarina Kosova. Yes, we do share a common fate of Central Europe. It is our common, unique experience, the presence of history, collective memories, return of history, politics of memory and identity, cultural differentiation, new mapping of Europe, proximity, borders, migration issues, not mentioning ethnic cleansing, conflicting narratives, the meaning of dissonant heritage, and finally the lesson of communism. And even more, sudden change after 1989 means also the speed and complexity of which is now usually expressed in this very fashionable word, transformation. So we do share common values, common experience, common pain as well, especially as the tragedy of the 20th century. So my point number 3 is, I hope, quite optimistic. Looking at V4 30 years after, and still complaining about a very poor infrastructure concerning transportation connecting us still 30 years after. One can say that the objective of the V4 was and is as the main objective to bring our societies closer to each other, to overcome various prejudices, negative stereotypes that still prevail in the region. And it is our mission. The culture should be at the heart of that project. And I think that at the moment still is, and we can just prove that today, discussing all those issues between Kraków, Prague, Bratislava, and Budapest. This is because it is culture that brings Czechs, Hungarians, Poles, and Slovaks together. History, politics, and economy if anything, draw us apart. So, concluding, one should say and should emphasize that culture, therefore, should be at the center of our efforts to bring us together, to enhance our Central European identity. And this common historical experience of the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, Slovakia now constitutes a value. A value distinguishes the V4 countries from other members of the European Union, but at the same time, it creates a sense of community. I have a dream. This dream is, of course, to look at Nordic countries. They are much more efficient using their common history, common identity, common experience at front of the global world. And I think that this very conference, this very forum, this very meeting is the beginning of our game, the game of Central Europe with globalization, with the usage of culture and heritage based on our friendship and our common understanding of the meaning of culture heritage. So it is my understanding of this political dimension, or political, let's say, perspective of those 30 years' time. It is more than the interwar time in Europe.
Yes, it is. I should leave the questions and comments for the end, but I see two comments at the moment on the chat. At first from Professor Ewa Chojecka. Was Austro-Hungarian monarchy the first... one moment, please. Was Austro-Hungarian monarchy the first unsuccessful experiment of a united Europe? And then one from Ola Habiera. We like to think the first was the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Is there anyone who would like to comment it? I think it gives us the longer perspective of collaboration of not only Visegrad countries in the region of Central Europe.
My comment is very short, and I'm very grateful to Professor Ewa Chojecka following our discussion and reminding us our common Central European roots based on Austro-Hungarian or Habsburg Empire. But let me just admit that the difference between our partners from Czech Republic, from Hungary and Slovakia is that as Poland is concerned, only 15% of the territory of contemporary Poland has belonged to the Habsburg Empire, and it is Krakow. And our responsibility as a part of this very unusual world, it is our responsibility, and the proof for this responsibility is this very meeting simply. So we are trying to be the window of Poland towards Central Europe, understood as a place of common values born at the turn of the 19th and the 20th century under the Habsburgs.
Thank you so much. I think I should go to the second question about the management of cultural heritage protection. How the cultural heritage management has changed in your country during the last 30 years. You've been actively observing or being a part of the process of this change, so I'm very intrigued with your personal perspective. And again, let us start with Prague. Jiří.
Thank you very much. Yes, I can say that cultural heritage in Czech Republic is and was relatively stable and firm. What has advantages and also disadvantages? After the Velvet Revolution, it was quite wild time, and it was not easy to defend public interest. I think that it was big time for make changes. In field of culture, women care, unfortunately, there was chance to create a new law, but our system of monument care is still based on law adopted in 1987, what is not good information, because we have still Landmark Conservation Act number 20/1897. What was necessary, that the Czech Republic consists of 14 regions administrated by regional offices, which were set up during year 2000. And the basic level of state administration is provided by more than 200 municipalities with extended powers. And I think that this system is quite appropriate for defense of the public interests. Competences of the state administration relating mostly to the protection and management of culture and natural heritage have 4 bodies in the Czech Republic. Main player, of course, is Minister of Culture, which is responsible for tangible and intangible culture or widespread culture. And other ones are Minister of Regional Development, which covers town and country planning and building codes, tourism and the promotion of heritage, regional development, public commission, and so on. Minister of Environment, the protection of nature and landscape protection, environment, and also Minister of Agriculture, some responsibility of this field, water and forest management, country renewal, land adjustment, and so on. And I think that this institution are very important and very cooperative on this field. Okay, in addition to bodies involved in the state landmark conservation, the National Heritage Institute also occupies an important position in the structure of landmark conservation, and is the professional organization involved in state heritage care. What is, in my opinion, the most significant change in the country during the last 30 years? According to me, it is change of the viewing or feeling of the culture from on the one side as something no important, no necessary in 90s, to the integral part of our life in nowadays. It's something fantastic. What is more, in 19th there are, I mean, Czech Republic and in all post-communist countries, there was really big pressure for building construction without any rules, and as a consequence of it was demolitions. The tangible heritage, it was really wild time. And nowadays there's also pressure for building construction, of course. I think that it will be forever. But I can feel more respect to the history and to culture, and more respect to cultural heritage. And I think that we are really, I mean, post-communist countries, we are really, more friendly to the cultural heritage at all. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. The report that we are working on at the ICC gave us many intriguing information about similarities in terms of the problems that all of the Visegrad countries faced in relationship to the cultural heritage protection and management. But also the report says that the answers were different. We are sometimes jealous observing how the Czech Republic is dealing with the issues dedicated to cultural heritage. So thank you for your perspective. And now I would like to give the floor to Tamás Fejérdy. Let's move to Budapest.
Okay, thank you again. And may I ask for support? Okay, technical support. But I'm not waiting for the... it's here. Okay. Okay, so you can see here a quite complicated chronology of changes and so on. I don't want to read out, of course, this one, but just to underline some crucial elements of that. So first of all, I have underlined that the changes after 1989 were fundamental. And before this change existed only one central institution for monument care, which was called Országos Műemléki Felügyelőség, National Inspectorate for Historic Monuments, and was a highly complex, huge organization with about 1,200 employees, and of course it was dealing with each and every element of monument care, management, preservation, restoration, and so on and so on. And it was responsible to realize scientific researches, restoration, architecture, planning and design, artistic restoration of object of art, execution of historic monuments and buildings, and so on and so on. And of course, we also had in this central institution a very important documentation center. And may I join to this explanation made by Katarina Kosova. Yes, this documentation center is quite rich, also documentation before the split after the Austro-Hungarian monarchy. So it is really a useful and important documentation center. Now, which are the main elements of changes? First of all, during this 30 year, the change was almost continual. So I'm not able to tell you that it was somehow a final decision. We want to reach this or that final result in the organization and management, something, but it was time to time reorganized, and the reform was followed by other reforms. The leading principles were, first of all, a kind of, let's say, deregulation, and the ownership issues became more and more important and more stronger. You can understand that after the political and economic changes, the ownership system was totally changed, and the private owners became even again important. And before the changes, the biggest and largest owner of each and every historic monuments, protected shattered monuments, was the state, or the central institutions, or the local institutions, but everything was connected to the state. So one point is the changes of ownership status, and with that, one of the guiding principles is the deregulation. So just means, it means that more and more the ownership, the owners wanted to have a more flexible and less rigorous legal context. The second is really dealing with the closer to the management issues and institutional issues. It was a process of deconcentration, which means that still under central control, but the filiale of the central office started to work in 19 plus 1 Comitat of Hungary. And this deconcentration was followed by more and more decentralization. It means that not only deconcentration, but some important tasks and control and other processes were given to local or almost local players. And now go back to the central, the source of the system of the changes of the central institution. I have to tell you that today, after this long and quite complicated process of changes, today there is no one central institution for monument care and monument preservation and monument management. We do have a lot of responsible institutions. First of all, in the Prime Minister office, there is a department which is dealing with architecture and the cultural heritage issues. This is, of course, the legal setting institution, and also the guiding central institution for monument care. As for the historic monuments, owned by the state, there is a state institution just taking care of that with some special projects. Maybe later I will go back to this project. And I mentioned this very important documentation center. It became a part of the Hungarian Academy of Arts, together with the not yet completely established Hungarian Museum of Architecture, and a very specific documentation center for historic monuments from the beginning, at least from 1872 until now. And of course, there are many other institutions. I don't want to really enumerate in detail, but the last element of this development is that the control was given to the local, deconcentrated offices of the central government in different comitats. So this is the control, and those institutions have the right to license, building permissions, or to issue them. And last but not least, as for the monument evidence or monument inventory, we do have Lechner Fond, which is dealing generally with the documentation of architecture and urbanism, but also they have the responsibility for inventory of the cultural heritage properties, namely inventory or evidence for protected archaeological sites and places, protected historic monuments, and also the level dealing with the connected items. However, the control on the movable items remain at the Ministry of Prime Minister. So if you think that the system is quite complicated, you are right. There are some advantages and also some disadvantages of the development we did have. As Professor Purchla, I'm still a little bit optimistic. I do believe, I hope that this articulation of responsibilities finally will realize or will conclude a good cooperation and a much larger, a much stronger articulation of different branches can be seen also as a help to see a much wider context of monument care. I don't want to enter in detail of specific programs and projects. As you can see on the table, Hungary, after accession to the European Union, used quite a lot, largely European funds for monument preservation, regarding larger conservation projects, but I have to underline that those projects are not really developed and realized because those properties are monuments. It was mostly in the aim of enhancing the tourism attraction. So I hope that you can understand that the situation is quite complex, and of course the role and the importance of professional and non-professional but dedicated and non-governmental organizations highly have to be strengthened. Thank you very much for.
Thank you so much for this detailed description about Hungary. And now let's move to Slovakia. Katarina, please turn on the microphone.
There is no voice.
Because for echo, I switch off
Sure.
always micro. Sorry. Thank you very much. No, and looking at the timing, I will not so deep explain the situation, how the change the institutional basis of the protection of monuments in Slovakia, because it is written in this report. But I will focus mainly of the most for us important moment for the setting up of the Monuments Board of Slovak Republic. So what was our main aim was after the changes that we really in the new institution we will reflect the changes of the whole society in the new democratic line. It means that the new act of the protection will base on the full respect of the democratic principles, which we have also used by the protection of monuments. It means the respect for the public interest, both the cultural heritage and the protection of cultural heritage and also of the nature is articulated in the Slovak constitution. And on the other hand, there is also written about the respect for human rights, and it means the rights of the owner, which is also articulated in the Slovak constitution. So that was the main turning point from where we started to bring the foundation for the new act. But it before it was, of course, a lot of partially reorganization steps which are described in the report. And then only after 12 years was the society so prepared that we really could realize this our project, and it was mainly the door was open mainly after the end of the third governmental period of Mr. Prime Minister Michał, when the really new government, really democratic government open us for us this possibility, and under the minister Milan Kňažko and at that time the section chief Dr. Peter Maraki, we started to prepare this new act. And in the year 2002, 1st of January, we realized the transformation from the Monuments Institute, which was to this moment only the advisory body for the general state administration. It was only support voice, it was only advice voice, but since that time we transformed the institution into the position of decision making position. So we are responsible, and we are making the decision for the renovation, restoration, also declare the monuments, etc. So we are really very proud for this moving, because it was very important to build such a very strong foundation for our protection. And in the second line was also important to prepare also new financial subsidizing scheme that was prepared by Minister of Culture under a very romantic name, Let's Renew Our House. And I'm very glad that this subsidizing system is still alive in the same structure, and sometimes also amount per year, which is approved by the National Council, is sometimes bigger, sometimes, but the niveau is each year, so we say stable. Last 3 years it was much more increased. So this is the current situation, and we are our ambition was also to make a transparent protection of monuments, because there was sometimes the reflection that nobody knows what are the decisions, and we know that the main part and the problematical part are not the listed monuments, are the historic structures which are located on the protected areas. It means in monument zones or monument reserves. So that's why we prepared, and we have for the last 5 or 7 years, every protected area in Slovakia has all its documents, its research, the results, the interpretation, and also the maps, and also the regulation about this protected area. They are on the internet, so if you have such interest to buy the house somewhere, mainly in those areas, you can for the first moment see what are the regulation and what are the limitations for you. So I think that it is the biggest changes on which we are really very proud, and we hope that the society will also understand that this decision to give the position of state specialized agency for the protection of monuments will be continually using in the cultural policy of Slovak Republic. So short to the changes in Slovakia, because it was a big change, and I hope that 20 years is the testimony of our job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now it's time for Poland.
As the last speaker, I do not complain, but I can only talk about similarities on our joint way from communism towards democracy, towards the democratic state of law. Looking at the system of heritage conservation, one should emphasize simply the fundamental systemic change. Analyzing the whole model, the whole system of monuments protection, one should talk about the problem of ownership of heritage, the problem of responsibilities for heritage conservation, financing efforts to preserve especially listed monuments, status, namely legal status of listed monuments, and the last but not least, the position of conservators, of conservation services, or in other words, offices, and the role of this very system of public administration. The fundamental change, for example, means privatization of listed monuments and transfer of responsibilities for financing monument care and conservation onto new owners or previous owners who has been, how shall I put it diplomatically, owners disinherited, so to speak, by nationalization of the whole monuments asset by the communist state. Now, it is a revolution, a real and truly revolution. and it is directly conducive to heritage market and commercialization. Conservation services gradually lose their influence on the definition of monuments conservation. Their role is becoming passive. So trying to conclude, let me just compare those 6 elements of the system, if I may. Before 1989, the ownership, the dominating and preferred form of ownership was state property. Now it is private property. As responsibility is concerned, the previous model emphasized responsibility for the conservation of the listed monuments declared by the state. Now it is clear that it is responsibility of the owners and the users. It is also a matter of financing the whole problem of the monuments conservation and protection. It is any longer the monopoly of the state. There are different resources to finance, and of course, once again, the responsibility of the owners, and so on, and so on, and so on. So the change is enormous, including the change of the position of conservators. It is not any longer the time when conservator implements central government policy. At the moment, the conservation offices are passive. Initiatives are taken by owners and investors. So we are facing this radical change, this dynamic change, and the system implemented by the state before 1989 does not simply follow this change. And it is, I think, that the shortest conclusion.
Thank you so much. I think more of the information about the system, about the change of the system, will be presented in the report. The time flies, so I would like to ask about the Visegrad cooperation and its involvement and its meaning for the international cooperation of the particular countries. But I see the comment from Lubica Pincikova, one of the pillars of our cooperation since the very beginning, since 2007, participating in the meeting and organizing various programs in Slovakia for the purpose of the cooperation. Good morning, everybody. I'm pleased that our cooperation link continues for 30 years. Many young people participated in our common summer school management of the UNESCO World Heritage Cultural Sites in Visegrad countries. Many of them are today at significant job positions and can also use this knowledge, experience. I wish that it will continue and in other areas too. Thanks to International Cultural Center to support and all our partners too. Thank you so much, Lubica, for being with us. And now I would like to ask about how did the Visegrad Group help to extend the international cooperation in terms of cultural heritage in your country? So let's go to Prague. Jiří.
Yes, of course, for the Czech Republic, these activities, initiatives, very fruitful as a basement of our international activities. Of course, what is absolutely easy is that the headstone is the working group of culture heritage in the V4 countries. But for us, what is very important is V4 Heritage Academy. because it is a school for young professionals, young people. It is international exchange of experience. I have only very positive voices from this Heritage Academy, and it is necessary to mention this very interesting, very fruitful, very useful issue. Of course, Heritage Forum of Central Europe is something what is not necessary to comment, because we are in the center of it now. And I have written an article yesterday on the topic of V4 cooperation, and it was voiced that there is a crisis between some countries or during V4 cooperations. It is possible, but I think that on the field of culture, it is not true. I think that this cooperation is not without problems. It is not true, but I think that it is a main goal, and we are fulfilling what is necessary. I can mention the Colloquium of Library and information workers from the Visegrad Group and CEFO cooperation, the almost Central European Forum. CEFO has created an extensive international network of partners and established a documentary and research center. There are the exhibition projects in all V4 countries, and so on. There is a lack of time, so for me it's absolutely crucial things. And thank you for it, and thank you for ICC for leading of V4 countries in the field of culture heritage. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And now let's move to Budapest. What was this cooperation for Hungary?
Thank you for the floor. And I already given the answer on your first question. I already touched upon this point, but I want to go back to the point which was raised by Ljubica Pichikova. By the way, I greet her very warmly. And I think that the most important thing is this networking issue. And I fully agree that this Visegrad Group cooperation had a lot, mostly on the field, to create connection between experts, and even more between the connection between young experts or as ICOMOS is using today, emerging experts. And I really believe that this cooperation was not only important among the V4 countries, but as has been already mentioned by Michał Wiśniewski in the introduction, it was a bit seen as a V4 plus. So we also had the chance to cooperate countries, neighboring countries, and invited participants. So I don't want to be very long, but I do believe that this is really something which is has this cooperation, I mean, has the strongest input in the renewal of cooperation after the communist period. You should not forget about that. In that period, it was always that the cooperation was led by the former Soviet Union. And today, this cooperation is fully and totally different. And I want to finish my short contribution on this topic, that this V4 or Visegrad Group cooperation is, at least in our context, in our Hungarian context, was also very useful and helpful, and we were looking for partners in the realization of different European Union programs and projects, because this mentioned network issue, it was still a big help to know good professionals, both tutors and former students. So I do believe we should continue this one. And as very specific Hungarian addition, that very unfortunately in the last 2 years, last decades, the cultural heritage or history monuments publication in Hungary, I'm sorry to say, is not so strong. So we are really also grateful and happy that this V4 cooperation led by ICC in Krakow also allows to our professionals to be a part of the good publication of this center. And I don't want to mention only just the volumes of the previous Central European Cultural Forums, or the extremely interesting and, how to say, sometimes provocative issues of heritage. So I really think that this cooperation is not only important, but also, how to say, fundamental, not only in the cooperation among us, but in a larger context.
Thank you so much for so many kind words, warm words from Budapest, and let's go to Bratislava. Visegrad cooperation.
Yes, thank you very much for the floor. So when I read this, the question, so I was not sure what was the first. If it, the results of this our fruitful cooperation, the result of this format before of it, or if it is something what is also very naturally was growing up from our bilateral, also historical relations that we all have between us, between each others. So, but when I was thinking more about it, so I realized that really without V4 format, we will never came with such a close contact with ICC. Because it was the invitation from ICC to cooperate on this summer academy, to cooperate and be the steering committee for the Middle European Cultural Heritage Forum. So I think that it is very fruitful because it is not only to the discussion between us, four countries, our experts and our experiences, but it is through these conferences, also the big window into the world cultural policies and cultural experiences. So I think that is very important because for us it was really the open window also to Belarus, to Ukraine, and also the connection, for example, to the National Trust of Japan. So I feel that it is important to go this way also in the future, because this format could be quite strong. Because I was counting it. It is a format for 65 million people in Europe, and it is the group of voices which could be also in European cultural policy could be could be here louder and louder. So that is my opinion.
Thank you so very much, Professor Purchla.
It is a big difference between Michał and my generation in this sense that my generation is presumably the last which still remembers the state borders and pozor, attention, do not cross the border. It was, I understand, the major pain of my generation when we were students. So the first value of this cooperation, our cooperation, is to discover the neighbor, is to know each other better. And it is, I can tell you, the real value after those decades of splendid isolation, namely official friendship of so-called socialistic countries and pozor, attention, do not cross the border. It helps also to understand better the major problem of Central Europe, which is the basic question, why my friend is your enemy? And more, education, different ways, and education as this new philosophy, new approach towards our understanding the past. It is not just a monument isolated from the present and the future, but it is heritage as the concept which creates unlimited possibilities to discuss, but also to manage. And as manage, I understand that the real added value of our cooperation, our Heritage Academy is the best example. It is a matter of good practices. It is a matter of visiting each other and learning. And the last but not least, it is also my experience concerning UNESCO, our joint presence within this global family. It is much easier to recognize us from the countries, for example, from Asia and Pacific region as Central European group that trying to convince, I'm not in a position to mention the names of those respected countries of the region I just mentioned, who we are and what are the differences between our region and the rest of the European continent.
Thank you so much. We almost consume all of the time, and the discussion is really intriguing, putting so many important information. I see one question from Volodymyr Vladyka. Do you think that there is a possibility of enlargement of Eastern neighbors to Visegrad Group in the decades to come? Here I want to focus on my question particularly on Ukraine, even for the last years when it struggled with its own difficulties. V4 never stopped supporting Ukraine both politically and economically. Also remembering there are many historical and cultural ties between V4 members and Ukraine, and even the path of Ukraine is somewhat similar to V4, shift from communism influence towards the EU. As well, what benefits such enlargement could provide for Central heritage preservation and promotion? Maybe we should keep this question in our minds. I would like to ask the last question, asking for the short answers. How do you anticipate the future of heritage management in your country? How the future of heritage protection and management in your country should look like? Maybe we should go beyond and also think about the Visegrad in this context. Jiří?
Yeah, I was quite afraid of this question for future, but maybe I have two ideas following this topic. The first one is that I think that the trend it will be to use long distance communication and long distance opening culture to the public. I mean that it is for whole sphere of culture, long distance concert, long distance exhibitions, long distance access to library, and so on. I think that it is likely that there will be huge demands for it, but I hope that common way, and I think real way of the consummation of culture will be key. And the second idea Second comment is that I think that the tension between all kinds of development and protection of public interest will be sharpened. And we observe tendency to make things faster, easiest, and relatively effortlessly. It was worrying signal for future to save not only culture heritage, but also natural landscape, water, animals, arable land, and more public interest. And I think that it is challenge for not only before countries, but for Europe and world, because I think that it's necessary to save so necessary public interests as we have. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And now let's move to Budapest. Microphone, please.
Sorry. Yeah. Switch on my micro. So thank you very much. I prepared quite a long something, but I don't enter to read out. I want to tell you that first of all, the most important thing to be very clear on that the cultural heritage or built cultural heritage is much larger set than historic monuments and sites. So this something which needs a different vision and much more appropriate approaches. But as for the good state of conservation, which would be the main aim of ours, because without that, many other functions and benefits are not really available. So for good state of conservation and sustainable use of values, there are some principles. First of all, the cheapest and most effective way to preserve values is the continual maintenance. So I do believe that for the future strategy and future heritage management has to concentrate and focus on the continual maintenance, of course, on a very professional basis. And the other one is that protection always means that the community became a virtual co-owner of heritage property. So there is a necessity not only being co-owner with limitations, but also being co-owner to economic or financial help and technical support. And also, if I are speaking about money, the other point is that heritage-based development are really important and useful. But of course, heritage not has to be only an excuse for development. But the integrated approach is necessary because too much money is similarly dangerous for heritage as do not have enough money. And of course, respect for preservation, a worthy use of cultural heritage values is decided in the minds of men as a rephrasing of the UNESCO's devotion. And I do believe that the strategy for the future is the most important thing, that it's the cooperation with local communities, with owners, and the mutual understanding, and not to forget the professional input, the importance of professional input. We should understand that the participation, large-scale participation, is not instead of a professional involvement, but together with can be useful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. And now it's time for Bratislava.
Thank you very much. For the future, for the management of protection of monuments and for management of cultural heritage in Slovakia, I think that, and I mentioned it before, that this is a very fragile discipline which is realized in the open public space, and there is a lots of interest, inclusive also the political interest, and that's why, in spite of them, I am not so pessimistic. I look in the future with a little bit optimistic view, because when I look back for the 20 years of Monuments Board, I see that there were growing up at least two generations which were growing up on the basis of on the principles of democratic principles for the protection of monuments, because they are working mainly only with this new act. So I hope that they understand, I do hope, understand very well how, what gift is to have this competence, this decision-making competence, and how they have also in the moment when the institution is under the pressure or attacks, had also to protect the institution itself. What I feel is very important to more use the digital technologies, not only to make easier their own job, but also to make an easier access for the public, for the people who are the interest, and to be more transparent, and it is also the answer how to be the well-organized institution for the 21st century. And what is very important, when somebody wishes to be a good professional, he really has a very balanced, to have the balanced position between to be enough realistic and enough romantic, or enough enthusiastic. Because when you are going from one extreme to other, there are also a lot of problems. And for our future V4 cooperation, I think that this situation with the pandemic, COVID crisis, I think that it is something what plays for us, because now to travel around the globe, it is not so possible. So we can much more focus on the neighboring countries, and to make stronger this our cooperation, and to use that you are in the neighborhood, it is not so far home, and you can in neighboring country feel much more safe. So I hope that also all this not very well pandemic situation could help us to be closer, and to be much more create this our small space. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and let's go back to Poland.
Many thanks. Just in short, let me please put it this way. Professionalism and depoliticization should be fundamental in heritage policy or heritage policies. It is also the growing problem of UNESCO World Heritage Committee at the moment. Preservation cannot exist in isolation from a wider context of state patronage, as well as national planning policy, social education for heritage, and last but not least, the political system. If the state is unable to manage the system of culture heritage conservation efficiently, social capital, to my deepest understanding and conviction, social capital should become an opportunity to preserve culture heritage and employ it as a development factor. A shift of focus from values of heritage to social needs, this change of approach towards heritage could be even described as a revision of the ontological status of heritage. So concluding, local self-government and civil society are necessary to create a modern system of culture and heritage protection in Poland. Heritage is the people. Thank you. thank you very much indeed of being able to participate of this meeting with the friends. All the best from Krakow.
Thank you so very much. I see a question from Maciej Czarnecki regarding from what Professor Jacek Purchla just said on the condition of monuments protection and contemporary tendencies in the care of monuments. Is there a real chance to create a pressure group, e.g. based on the ICC community, influencing legal regulations related to increasing the effectiveness of conservation services and increasing the position of the conservators institutions in Poland? Of course, my previous question has a broader meaning. Should the V4 be a pressure community influencing the increase of the monuments protection effectiveness and improve the conservators' position in the whole region? So, is there anyone who would like to answer? Is V4 a platform that can build such a lobby for monument conservation? Professor Purchla?
Just in short, 2 points. Point number one, it is a very appropriate question and remark. We have answered this very question 2009, preparing under my chairmanship the report commissioned by the Minister of Culture those days. No doubt that the position of conservators is diminishing, and there are several reasons for that. And my point number two is it is not just a matter of conservators itself as the professional group. It is a matter of this change I just mentioned, the shift of focus from values of heritage to social needs. So the pressures should come concerning this very problem, not from inside, from the group of conservators, but from the civil society. And I do hope that it will come sooner or later.
Thank you so very much. Dear friends, Jiří, Katarína, Tamás, Professor Purchla, I would like to express my gratitude for this discussion. I also would like to say that to all of the participants of the forum, using our website, you can easily find the books from the previous heritage forums of Central Europe. They are in the PDF format, easy to download. Please use them, please read them. Here are the effects, the published effects of our cooperation, the limits of heritage, heritage and the society, heritage and the city. Environment is already there as well. And moreover, I should say that in a few weeks of time, also the report regarding the V4 cooperation in terms of cultural heritage promotion and protection will be available online on the website of the ICC. Please follow us. You will find the information regarding to this report. Before I will end this very meeting, I should also say that at 12 a.m. we are starting the parallel sessions of the 6th Heritage Forum of Central Europe. We still have many very interesting presentations ahead of us. And also I would like to invite you for the 6 p.m. for the final discussion about the future pandemics and what's next. We have the panelists from Croatia, Irena Kregar-Szegota from Rijeka, from Prague, Alicja Knast, and from Krakow, Robert Piaskowski. The discussion will be chaired by Agata Wąsowska-Pawlik, the ICC director. So please be with us, and right now, thank you so very much. I see one information from Tamás Fejérdy. Yes, Tamás?
Thank you very much. I only want to thank you, Michał, because it was greatly guided this forum discussion. As usual, I think this is one which really missing. I miss really each year, and we had this summer academy always under your guidance. So thank you. It was a good feeling too. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen. The meeting that we just had is over. So see you at 12 during the parallel sessions.
Köszönöm.
Thank you very
Szépen.
much.
Köszi.